the rigorous effort it takes to figure out your purpose and who you are. And I think the most important piece there was the rigorous effort. It does take effort. And often there's this lack of, or there's this idea that it's easy, to find that. But for me, it is rigorous effort to connect to that deeper sense of self, but it's worth every moment of effort. So I vibe with that.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Mashpitz. Dr. Justin, welcome back to the show.
Very happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
It's been like almost 100 episodes since I last chatted with you. You were last on in episode 125. This will be episode 223. So a lot of changes, a lot of growth, I think, for the both of us. So I'm pumped to get into all of that. But before we do, I have a special request for you. And definitely to put you on the spot, 100% to put you on the spot. Can you lead us through maybe, I don't know, a couple minutes of some breathwork exercises to prime me and to prime you and to prime the listeners for a great experience?
Absolutely. Take a deep breath in. Let's go right into it. In. And let it go. Every time I lead different breathwork practices every time, but I always like to start with just some self-awareness, physical body awareness. So check in with your body, let your body fidget and move around. There's a very high likelihood that you've been stagnant for a few too many hours. So shrugging the shoulders, rolling the neck. Good. Deep breath in, grow yourself tall through the spine. And then relax into your seat just a little bit more. Exhale. Beautiful. Another deep breath in, tall. And relax, let it go. Drooping the shoulders, dropping the low back, relaxing the stomach. Deep breath in, creating some strength and stability, elongation. Inhale. And relax everything, let it go. Good. And let a natural, normal breath in lift you up slightly. And maintain that height and that slight lift as you exhale. So maintain posture, exhale. Now just return to an in and out while also holding yourself a little bit taller than normal. So you're noticing that your breath supports your posture. Your posture supports a greater depth of breath. So we're focusing on breathing deeper, breathing bigger, but we're also focusing and putting a lot of brain focus awareness into our physical body. So we're creating interoception, awareness of what we're feeling in the body, and amplifying that with active participation, posturing up, and active participation in the breath. Deep breath in again. Maintain that height, but let it go. May drop slightly. Let's do 5 more. And let it go a little faster. In, a little faster. 3, let it go. 2, last one. In, and then the gentle exhale, let it go, relax. And enjoy the show.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy to do so.
So my first question would be, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing?
Doing good. As most answer. How you doing? Good. How am I really doing? I'm doing really good. How was I doing 2 weeks ago in the stress of holidays? As good as most everyone else. Rough. Family, stress, movement, a distancing from my daily routine and ritual that creates so much goodness and stability. So now that I've come out of the holidays and back into my home and my structure and my flow and my morning routine, I feel great. I'm also on like a 7-day cold bath streak. Maybe 5 days ago, I did a polar plunge experience for my local community. We had 30 individuals come out and jump into a nice, beautiful natural spring in the Ozarks. I'm in Northwest Arkansas, Bentonville. So we did this beautiful outside natural spring dip, cold plunge. I actually led 3 different groups over the course of 3 hours. We had a sauna on site. Wood burning was amazing, beautiful. But as the facilitator, I was in there with every dip. So I did 9 dips over uh, 3 hours. But honestly, I would do that every day. It was powerful, beautiful, and I still feel a really heightened positive experience from that. So, yes, to answer your question, I feel great and excited to be here.
One thing that you said that resonates with me, well, besides all of it, but like the traveling part is so interesting because I love going on vacation. I love doing traveling with my fiance. We're going to new places. But like you said, I always feel a little off because my routine is not as, structure and routine as I normally have it. Like I go to the gym, I like to wake up at this certain time, I like to get my movement in, yada yada yada. And on vacation, it's harder. It's nice if there's a gym close by that I can hit. I've started traveling with some of my bands, so I can do them at the airport and in and out of cars and things like that when I wake up. But do you have any tips in terms of how you have a mindset shift for that? Because I have to really prep my mind to like, okay, Aaron, it's going to be different. It's going to be okay. You can still enjoy what's happening. And you'll get back to your routine when you can. Do you have anything that you do? Any tips, tricks?
Yes, lots. First one that comes to mind is being really anchored on your why. Like, why are you so in tune with your routine? And then also, why are you so willing to get rid of your routine when you're on vacation? Yes, you're traveling. Yes, there's this natural like flux in um, where you're sleeping and other people's influence on what you're eating. Yet, um, I did a 5-day water only fast on the 5 days leading up to Christmas. So Christmas morning, my greatest gift was the gift of food to myself. So I did a 5-day fast, and that was amongst family, and that was amongst friends and holiday parties. And I was very confident in my why, and I was able to communicate that and not feel weird or not feel out, not feel like I was the black sheep or awkward. And this is all in large part due to the work, deep interpersonal work I've done over many years. Like last 5 years have been very focused on me. Like my business is called True Self Health, like finding my true self, and it's taken a long time. And now I've done a lot of the work that's allowed me to be really comfortable with who I am and how I live and how I show up. And yes, I'm the weird one of my family that chooses to not eat food for 5 days while there's cakes and pies and smoked pastrami that was almost delicious, except that I didn't get to eat it. And so I've really got to embrace like my lifestyle and who I am. Uh, and also not over publicize it to everybody and not
Mm.
announce to my family in the world like, hey everyone, I'm fasting. Like, oh no, thank you, I'm fasting. Like, I'm not trying to inform people. They know, and if they don't know, that's fine. And I'm not going to turn every conversation into a preaching about my lifestyle. I'm just doing my thing. So for me, it's a practice in itself to anchor in with myself and my intentions and my why, and not overextend that outside of me. It's a very personal practice. So I like to keep it personal. And that really fueled me in this most recent holiday season because, again, typically I'm like, oh, I'm not eating because I'm fasting. And people are like, oh, why are you fasting? And then I get into it. And then that's taxing, and I'm extending myself beyond myself. And so this season go around, I was like, I'm just gonna be me and do me and not overhype. So I feel like I doubled down on this uh, self confidence and okayness with who I am and how I wanted to show up, and that helped me, set aside time to meditate, aside time to do breath work, invite people in my family to join me in a breath work and meditation, where most of the time they said no. And I said, okay, great, I'm gonna go do it anyway. And as I would go do it anyway, they would like peek in and be like, hey, can we actually join? That sounds nice, versus being like, why aren't you joining? Dang, like I'm just by myself. So, well, woe is me. victim, right? So again, these are shifts that made a big difference for me, but it took many holidays with my crazy family to get here. So, and it's not guaranteed that next time I meet with my family, I'll be in a good zone with that. But that was that was my own personal advice this most recent holiday.
Yeah, trying to get really, 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 really clear on who you are and what you stand for, and not let sort of outside factors pull you away from that, even if you are on vacation. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that goes to, probably one of the main points of becoming the best version of you is getting clear on what are actually your core values, and what do you want to line up your thoughts, words, and actions through. How do you filter your movements and things of that nature? And once you get there, then like Dr. Michael Gervais says, you can do that in any environment, no matter what. And I think that's really, really cool. So
yeah.
yeah.
And speaking on Michael Gervais and getting clear, Pete Carroll just popped up, and they've collaborated quite a bit. Seahawks head coach. Yeah, he popped up on my feed today just before this, and he was talking about the rigorous effort it takes to figure out your purpose and who you are. And I think the most important piece there was the rigorous effort. It does take
Mhm.
effort, and often there's this lack of, or there's this idea that it's easy, to find that. And but for me, it is rigorous effort to connect to that deeper sense of self, but it's worth every moment of effort. So I vibe with that. I love that question.
Yeah, that's a great, just like 2 words, rigorous effort. I think I'm gonna steal that. But it doesn't, like, also like finding out who you are. It takes, like, it will take you through some pain. Like, and I think that's our greatest motivator for change. And essentially through that change and pain, you can find out who you are. Because if you really go like internal into the depths of your own soul, you're gonna find some shit that's like, ooh, I shouldn't have treated that person well. Ooh, that was bad. Ooh, this was bad.
Of
And
course.
then you can uncover sort of the light through that. But that's like actually finding out who you are. It doesn't happen by like your, it does start to happen through curiosity. You can be really curious about something, and that can travel down into passion and into purpose for sure. But it takes a little more excavation than that. And so Pete Carroll, I love listening to him talk. He lectured at USC. He put a whole lecture series on YouTube, and I watched it, and it was quite cool.
Yeah. And I'd love to link that into the work I do with breathwork and how I've been teaching the embodiment of those practices of who you are. And as we started with a deep breath in, lifting our posture, I'm going to invite everyone to take another deep breath in, lift their posture, and hold at the top. Hold at the top. So you've taken a full breath, and now you're holding at the top. Good. Exhale, let it go. Maybe through the lips, inhale to the top and hold. And hold. And now, as you're holding at the top, expand your body and pull more breath in. And notice that there's more in, and let it go. So, just as whenever we think that we are capable of, like, we're at that peak of who we are, there's always a little bit more, just like in the breath. Take a deep breath in through the lips again. Here we go. In. And notice that in order to take a bigger breath, you have to re articulate your body. Maybe posture out a little bit more, sip more air in, more. Notice that you can always, it requires a little more effort, but you can expand a little more. Let it go, relax. So, what I've been recently fascinated with my breath work is how often me and others that I work with carry our physical body and posture in such a way that we're instantly limiting and restricting how much we can express ourselves and how big we can be and how much we can show up in the world. And it's not just like a posture sit up straight thing, it's like an energetic, you're not embodying and holding yourself in such a way that can harness the full capacity of you. And for me, that's like where my truest self lies right now in this moment. 14 minutes into the podcast, I feel more in tune with who I am. My voice has changed, my energy has changed, my excitement has changed, and it all came from my awareness of how I wasn't full in my rib cage. I wasn't full in my depth of breath, And I gave myself and my body permission to shift, fidget, and readjust. Now I feel like I can see you more clearly and connect with you more clearly. So I love the topic of connecting to your inner nature. And yet I hear that topic happen a lot, and I see the people talking about it and they're rounded. I see the people talking about it and they're not embodying. And then it doesn't really make sense because I'm like, yes, it's a great concept, but are you holding yourself up in that way? Yeah, fake it till you make it. But those muscles that you are required to like lift yourself up, they need exercise to create hypertrophy, to create that new frame. And so this is something I've been fascinated with for a long time, but I'm really noticing come up a lot. And that's me focusing on that within myself. And that translates through me into my breathwork coaching clients, my mindset and performance coaching clients, my athletes that I'm working with that are trying to get better performance, flow state, confidence. It's a simple but effective practice. And I had to bring that in, given that we were on the topic of breathwork and connecting to true self.
Yeah, we're going to stick with that trend here. Can you talk about the difference between mouth breathing and nasal breathing? Is there one that's better than the other? Do you use some in certain situations? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah. So just mouth breathe right now as you're listening. That's going to typically entail your mouth being slightly open, your tongue resting on the bottom of the palate, just natural resting down. That breath from a mouth breath comes through the upper chest, comes into the upper chest. Now shift nose. Naturally, you don't have to force it, but notice, and it's imperfect as well. So you may not notice any change or difference at all, but breathing in and out the nose typically coincides with a little more belly breathing, a little bit more diaphragmatic, because you're requiring and needing to pull air through the sinus cavity into the lungs. So there's that pulling requirement. And in order to pull air into the lungs, you must muscularly expand and contract open the lungs to pull and create that suction. Mouth breathing doesn't require that. You can survive mouth breathing, but that's going to be shallow breathing in your upper neck, chest, clavicle region. Those are secondary respiratory muscles. Primary respiratory muscle is diaphragm and ribs intercostals. So when you breathe naturally through your nose, you're breathing low, you're breathing slow. So there is a difference. One is not, well, nasal is better than mouth breathing. But if you're working out and you're performing, you're going to have to breathe in and out the mouth, which is going to pull more air in, create a higher level of ventilation so you can fuel your system that's needing extra exchange. So naturally, you were just sitting. You're sitting 90% of the day, unfortunately, but that's the truth of the world right now. We're sitting 90% of the day. Nasal breathe. Zip it. Today, I caught myself mouth breathing. And I was like, shit, I need to zip it. 2 minutes later, I caught myself mouth breathing and holding my breath. And I was stressed. And that's apnea. You're holding your breath and you're not thinking about holding your breath. And I was like, oh, I'm not breathing. So I had to remind myself again, zip it, breathe through your nose. The reason I was reminding myself is because mouth breathing is inefficient. Mouth breathing by nature is not utilizing the full capacity of my respiratory system. If I'm stressed and I'm mouth breathing, I'm going to continue to be stressed. And I might stress myself even more. If I'm stressed and I shift to nose breathing, nasal breathing, at least I'll stay regulated. I might even come off that stress cliff just slightly. I might come down the stress ladder just a little bit, simply by changing and shifting. But it takes conscious awareness and reminders to breathe through the nose versus mouth. Or it takes a piece of tape. Often, if I'm at the computer, I'll mouth tape. It's not just sleep tape at night. I love sleep tape at night, and I do sleep tape at night so I can breathe through my nose at night. Because the more I breathe through my nose, the more efficient my breath. The more efficient my breath, the better my dreams and the better my sleep and the higher quality of my sleep. And I prioritize that. So I sleep with tape on my mouth. Same thing with emails. I don't like emails. Talking about emails is making my eyes droop and I'm like already bored. I don't like it. But I have a little roll of tape right by my computer. I'll put that on there for like a 30-minute stint of getting into my to-do list, emails, 45 minutes. I'm locking. And it also shuts me up so I'm not talking and distracting myself. So there's a double benefit to some mouth taping for those of you who are very similar to me and you like to talk a lot. So mouth breathing is a way of life. We talk, I'm talking, that's breathing. We laugh, that's great. But as far as efficiency for just regular day-to-day, nasal, way better. Efficiency with movement, exercise, nasal. Until you get to the point that you need more, mouth. And then return back to rest, nasal. Easy.
Are there any, like, a few main keys when trying to take a really optimal breath?
Slow and low. That's Patrick McEwen. Oxygen advantage. Slow in, slow out. A little quicker in than slow longer out. Those are the principles of it. A lot of people like the 4-7-8. Inhale 4, hold for 7, 8 for exhale. That's fine. Whatever technique feels good to you, but slow it down. Deepen. Low. Slow and low, that means diaphragm. That means rib cage. More optimal. But it definitely varies on set and setting and situation. But for me, I'm like slow and low. In my head, that circulates quite a bit. Slow and low.
One of the best tips that I got when doing a breath was don't breathe vertically, but breathe horizontally. And you mentioned breathing out of your belly. And so that's a good cue for me, like, because I coach baseball. And when we're talking about taking a deep breath, like, a lot of the guys are going to take a deep breath and they're going to lift their shoulders to take a deep breath. And I'm like, that's probably not doing you as much as you want it to do. How can we optimize that breath to actually get you focused on the next pitch, to actually get you locked back into the present moment? Let's think about trying to expand our belly and then pushing out the exhale really hard. And so that was good for me, like, not really stressing myself more by lifting my shoulders, creating more tension. And posture is important there, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. And then definitely I'll often, when I see people breathing into their shoulders, what I'll do is I'll have them inhale and shrug their shoulders on the inhale. So inhale as you're listening. Let's go. Inhale, shrug your shoulders. But that's what you're not supposed to do. Good. Let it go. Relax the shoulders. Inhale, shrug your shoulders, squeeze shoulders, scap, traps, and let it go. Relax. So that's not what you're supposed to do, but go into what you're not supposed to do a little bit more, because the whole world is saying don't go shoulders up. So, like, play with it. Get some voluntary control. Relax. Let it go. Now breathe into the stomach. So go where you're not supposed to, but voluntarily versus involuntarily. Involuntary shoulder breathing. Hey, quit shoulder breathing. Guess what? They're not choosing the shoulder breathe. They're not controlling it. They're not going to remember, and they're going to keep shoulder breathing. So I say, all right, here's shoulder breath exercise, and relax. Now we're creating voluntary control. Shoulder and relax. And now they're feeling that they're shoulder breathing, and they feel what it's like to shoulder breathe. So whenever you say don't shoulder breathe, guess what? They're tapped into that sensation. They're like, oh, where do I breathe instead? Low, wide, horizontal. Love it. I love it. So another little piece. Simplicity is key, though. Like, because if one cue and you say horizontal breathe and that works, stick with that. But for a lot of people, when I'm teaching breath work, specifically one-on-one, I'm like, okay, let's not vertical breathe, let's horizontal breathe. And they'll not understand what the hell that means. Excuse my language. They will not understand what that means. And so it's like, okay, actually, instead of vertical, well, this was what vertical means, and then there's that teaching point. But for some, you just say, hey, horizontal breathe, they get it, and you're good, and we're moving forward. So you can spend too much time talking about breath, or just like drop something positive that has enough of a change that's beneficial. I love it. That's why I love breath work. It's just such a diverse opportunity for coaching, like self-awareness, noticing, feeling, shifting. Yeah, I can riff all day, and I guess that's why we're here. Let's keep it going.
It is exactly why we're here. Have you seen the footage of the Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy?
Yes, because that's great publicity for me and what I do and what
Mm.
I teach. So anytime I see any high level athlete promoting meditation and breath work and the practices, I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to share what I do, which is very similar. Yet it's fascinating how every 3 months there's a quarterback doing the breath work, and then it's like everyone forgets. And now it's like the fact that JJ McCarthy's getting so much publicity for breathing and meditation, and all spotlights are on him. There's like 12 new news articles. I'm like, y'all just did this like 4 months ago, and you're acting like this is brand new. And like every time an athlete does it, there's like articles and this interest. Donovan Mitchell taking some deep breaths at the free throw line. So it's fascinating how social media and media works to me. But yes, I definitely saw it. I love it. And he was doing alternate nostril breathing, which I don't personally practice, but hey, it works for him. So yes.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like anytime it gets publicity, it's just good, right? Right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of times, especially for young athletes, like young athletes are seeing so much stuff on the internet. They're thinking they got to post all this and they got to do all that, and then they come across something that actually might be beneficial for not just their performance as an athlete, because that's going to end at some point, but their just performance as being a really well-rounded human being. And
Yeah.
like, oh, these people like prepare before the game. I don't just see them step on the field and that's it. Like there's visualization, there's meditation, there's breathing, there's trying to eat well and move well and sleep well and think well. And
Yeah.
so highlighting all of that stuff is so important, and not just highlighting just the end product. Like, oh, this guy won a championship. Yeah, that could be that you could reach that pinnacle. That's totally cool. But what are all the steps necessary to get there? I think is what we have the power to use social media for when so much other stuff is being posted, right? What can we use it to actually, benefit our young people if they are going to scroll for 3 or 4 hours a day, which it's hard to stop them from doing that. It'd be cool if like yeah. So that's what I think.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think too, part of me just peek into my thinking process as I saw it. Um, I was like, oh, that's an interesting move by him sitting at the goalpost right at the bottom before the game where all the cameras are, spotlights on him, and he's doing a breath work, like perfect posture, perfect pose, legs crossed, right in the middle, and like 12 cameras. Like, and so part of me, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting place to choose to do breath work and meditation. And I'm like, okay, there's a little ego there, but he's also a quarterback in a national championship game. Like there is definitely ego there, but it's not a bad ego, and it's not a bad space to do that because it is a place to bring out some more awareness of the practice that's been so beneficial for him as he's spoken into. And at the same time, guilty as charged so many times. I'm going to do breath work in my house by myself and I'm not feeling motivated. I think, oh, let me do a breath work like video for Instagram. And then all of a sudden I'm doing breath work. So it's for me to do my thing, but I'm also like using the social media as a tool. I'm like, oh, people are going to watch me. So there's some pressure or motivation for me to do it. I would have done it anyway by myself, but sometimes even I'll like video record myself as if I'm going to post a video of me doing breath work, and then I don't even post it. And I'm like, after 12 minutes, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Okay, I don't even need to post that. But there was something about the idea that I was doing it not just for me, but for others that motivated me to do the practice. So I can see that being part of his game plan as well. And I don't bash it. I love it. And it comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms. So yeah, love that.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And would
Um,
love to connect with the kid. JJ, if you're watching this, listening to this, let's link.
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Get you ready for the NFL, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, dude.
Um, you mentioned fasting before. That was another topic I wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah,
One, why did you decide to do 5 days? Is there specific benefits to 5 days? And what's the science around fasting? Why does it benefit human beings?
great. Fasting 101. Here we go. Masterclass as much as I can get out. We eat food for fuel, and naturally throughout human history, there have been times or periods of time where food is not accessible. So our human body has a built-in system where if we go multiple days without food, we don't die, we don't starve, we tap into secondary resources, energy stores, ketones, which is like a fat burning fuel source, like stored fat, as a way to keep us alive until we find food. Now, on that journey, after 3 days, you're a caveman and you haven't eaten and you're looking for food. One, you're out of energy. So you're likely walking everywhere. You're not doing any high intensity exercise, moving. You're just looking and searching. And as you're looking and searching, your vision gets more sharp because you're looking for food. Your sense of smell gets more sharp because you're smelling for anything that can satiate the body. So we're far removed from that, but the voluntary act of fasting for multiple days puts you in a state of ketosis where you're tapping into a different energy store. And also in that, a natural byproduct for me that I enjoy is this heightened arousal state. I'm depleted of energy. I don't got time for people's bullshit. So back to holiday party, Aunt Martha. I don't have an Aunt Martha, but we'll just say I have an Aunt Martha's talking my ear out. I'm not gonna like. I love you, Aunt Martha, and I'm listening, but I'm gonna choose what's best for me in the moment. Regardless, I find energy conservation is key. In again today's day and age, we aren't really focused on energy conservation. Our body is oversaturated with food and fuel. And as we are oversaturated with food and fuel, the system that requires our body to use that food and fuel, it's lazy. It's like, oh, these are our cells. This is our mitochondria, the parts of our body that utilizes energy and turns it into energy. Transduction, which is one of my words of the year, 2024. Momentum and transduction. Those are my words. So fasting, again, purposeful starvation in a way that creates your body to go into a survival state. And in the survival state, autophagy takes place. Autophagy is the cleansing of inefficient cells. So you got trillions and trillions of cells, and you're constantly like cells are constantly dying and then being renewed, dying and being renewed. Skin cells, you get a scratch, it scabs up, it scars, and then all of a sudden you got fresh skin. So you're constantly replenishing. Multi-day fasting amplifies that replenishing and cleansing cellular process. Also, mitophagy, that's the cleansing and clearing of mitochondria, which creates energy. So those are like the physiological benefits. Now you got the gut. The gut microbiome is something that needs to be regulated every now and then, or else you're going to have bad bugs controlling the stomach, which controls your brain, which controls your thinking. Often I get grumpy if I hadn't had food in a while, as do most people. So what happens when I'm fasting for multiple days is I get fucking grumpy. Excuse my language. I get angry. I get mad. I get irritable. But it's not me, Justin, getting irritable. It's my stomach, gut microbiome out of balance getting irritable that it's about to be rebalanced. So for me, there's this amazing positive mental health component that originates in the gut. So I'm re-regulating my gut health microbiome. Those are a few of the most primary reasons that I love the practice. Thirdly, I feel great. I feel cleansed. I feel clear. I feel in tune with my true self. Like I feel like down to the core of my being. At the end of my 5 days and I start to reintroduce food, I don't eat like crazy. There's a slow, mindful, disciplined way in which you reintroduce food, calories into your body. But as I reintroduce food, I feel like I'm fueling my soul. I'm not just eating to eat. I'm really like in deep nature with myself. And that sensation carries for weeks. I'm like 3 weeks post that process. And I feel like I still feel a profound benefit. And I'll likely do another multi-day, 5-day fast, maybe at the end of the month, early February. So every month and a half. I've heard that quarterly is the best frequency for 5-day fasts or 4-day fasts. Multi-day fast is basically anything like over 48 hours. That's 2 days. So there's some variability. I had the thought about doing an 11-day fast, but then the pastrami got me, man. It looked so good. And I was like, okay, cool. I got 5 days. I don't need to go for 11. It's holidays. Come on. Like, we don't need to, like, why am I punishing myself? Good job. 5 days was good. But I do have it in my head in the next calendar year, I'll do an 11-day fast. That's my next goal. So,
Whoa.
yeah, I know. Questions that I typically get.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to lose
Lay it
muscle?
on me.
Dude, aren't you going to lose muscle mass? Like, what do you do for workouts? This, that. I still walk. I definitely don't do my normal workout routine. I still go to work and I still participate. And I would say a little bit more clear because I shift from glycosis to ketosis. So using glycogen to using ketones that are naturally endogenous ketones that are used in my body. So I'm very sharp, very clear, very capable of doing my work. Do I lose muscle mass? Yes, of course. I'm not working out for 5 days and I'm not eating protein or anything. Is that detrimental? No. Like, I've gained it back quick. I get back into food, start to load up, and I get back to my routine, and my muscles feel stronger than they were prior, or they quickly return to base value of hypertrophy and of strength. So, of course, there's a temporary atrophy of muscle strength and muscle mass. Yeah. And then you get it back. So I think there's a lot of fear around fasting, of course. But there's also a lot of maybe an ungrounded fear that's not really rooted in understanding. And if anyone has questions, I'm passionate about it. I did my first 5-day fast almost a year ago, January, February, March. So it was March. Loved it. Did another 5-day fast, March, April, May. Loved it. And then I did another one in August. Loved it. And then I just did this last one. Did I do one in October? Maybe did one. I did a 4-day in October, and then I did another one. So I did 5 multi-day fasts in the last calendar year. I see it, and I believe that I'll continue to be doing these for the next 10 plus years. Like, I don't see why not. The research is profound. It's great for preventative mental health, Alzheimer's prevention, longevity, brain health. I feel like it's as beneficial or more than some of the cold plunging stuff I do. But I combine them all. I do it all.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, this isn't just some like bro science-y stuff that some, gym bro made up, like, oh, I'm gonna fast. And like, no, it's like, well documented stuff that your buddy Huberman talks about all the time. And Tim Ferriss, who's not a doctor, but a pretty smart guy, has talked about it all the time, and he has personal experience with it. So where would you recommend someone who's never done any sort of fast in their whole life? Where would you have them start?
Yeah. So, I mean, a few ways: inform yourself. You can hit me up. I have plenty of resources on fasting. Like you said, Huberman, he had a podcast with Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer does a lot of research on keto diet. So without fasting, you can mimic the ketosis process through a keto diet. Ketogenic diets are showing to have a lot of very similar benefits. So that can be a warm up. Intermittent fasting is great. There's just a wealth of knowledge about fasting, and more is coming out as it's gaining popularity. And at the same time, that's just learning. Like, you can learn by reading, which is awesome. You're informing yourself, or just do it. Just go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Not 5 days. Go for 48 hours. That's 2 days. That's doable for everyone, regardless of your demographic, gender, age, etc. Most all can handle 48 hours. And within 48 hours, you may not hit ketosis, but you'll hit grumpiness, you'll hit frustration, you'll hit the realization of how much food influences your mind, body, psyche. And that's beneficial in and of itself. So my invitation is go 48. And most people who go 48, upon my invitation to go 48, they hit me up and they're like, yo, I feel good. Should I go another 12? I'm like, yes. Listen to your body. Go for another 12. Some people are like, hey, I feel terrible. I have a headache. Well, if you have a headache, probably need it anyway. You need the fast. And enrich your body, give yourself some food. So my invitation is go 48. And if you get to 48, which most will, pat yourself on the back and then ask yourself, can I go another 12 hours? You'll go another 12, and then you'll notice that your body's capable of going another 12. Your body's capable of going longer. And then you're like, hey, I can go to 72. That's a 3-day fast. Hell yeah. You get to 72, complete. Don't go beyond 72 unplanned and unpracticed. I did a multiple 72, so that's 3 days of no food, multiple 3 days before I tried my first 5-day. I know a lot of people who are going for 5 days and they get to 48 and they're like, no way. And then that's a failure versus go for 48, get it, you got it, but positive momentum moving forward.
That's your word of the year, baby, right there.
Yeah, man, I love it. It keeps on popping up like subconsciously. But I'm big fan.
I saw you posted this really awesome video about sitting in a chair, and you changed your posture, and you basically got into a kneeling stance.
Yeah,
we can't really show that, via the podcast, but I want you to explain basically how we can think about our posture if we're someone who sits all day, and what can we do to improve that while breathing as well, because I think the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, definitely. Happy to share that. And again, it's just peek into what I'm doing all day long. I was on my computer before this podcast with my assistant. We're in the weeds of everything email wise, and I shifted, dropped one knee onto the ground. So I call it half kneeling, half sitting. So one butt cheek leg is on the chair as if I'm sitting. My other leg is knee down, so I'm kneeling. I'm kind of resting on my seat side leg, but I'm really pressing up through my planted knee. So it's not standing, but it's still axial compression. Axial meaning through the direct middle of a bone, long ways. So when you're standing, you're getting axial ground reaction force from the ground through your leg, tibia, fibula, up through the upper leg, the humerus, into your hip. That's healthy for the hip. When we sit all the time, you're not getting that axial load, and you're getting direct load from chair through your pelvic floor, through your sit bones, which is fine. But we're more ambient creatures needing walking and movement and standing, and so I've been indoctrinated into this line of thinking through 4 years of physical therapy training and getting my doctorate in ergonomics and learning how to sit up straight. And so that was amazing for me because I was a fidgeter. I was ADHD. I didn't like sitting still. No one does. It's not how we're supposed to learn as children. And so finally, whenever I went to physical therapy school as a 23-year-old, I was given permission to fidget, to stand up during class, to stretch while listening to the lecture because that helps circulation. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was punished my whole life for this. And now I'm getting permission and I haven't gone back. So as I'm sitting, of course, I'm going to sit normal, like normal people in normal chairs. But at some point, I will notice my breath is shallow. I'll notice that my shoulders are rounded. I notice that I'm lounging and slacking through my spine, and I haven't stood up in a while. But I can't stand up because I'm still working, or I can't go for a walk, and I want to go for a walk. So what's the alternative? Drop a knee, half kneeling. And what I like about half kneeling is it's fairly indiscreet if you're in a public space. People don't really notice because your head's at the same level and your hands are at the same level. So if you're sitting across from someone, they kind of see you shift around, but they don't see that you're kneeling down. And maybe someone from the side sees you kneeling, and they're probably more jealous and intrigued than anything. And they're like, damn, I wish I was doing that. So I really like what I call functional fidgeting of posture. And it was probably the biggest trap that I had. Well, one, society had placed upon me, but then I had taken up and placed upon myself, which is the lack of permission to move and shift. Like, as soon as you said that, I dropped into a half kneel, and I was there for 2 minutes or so. And now I'm on the other side, half kneeling, lounging, relaxed the other way. So if you were to watch a time lapse of us talking, my head and I doubt I'm in the same position the whole time. So my advice is take the shackles off, let your body be a body, fidget around. It's not bad. You don't have ADHD. You don't need to take Adderall or Vyvanse. You can just be a human and listen. And that might be an indicator that you need to go exercise or walk a little bit more. And so listen to your body.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Like, man, like, yeah, I have nothing more to add to that. But I do have this,
Yeah.
this quote that I want you just, whatever you think and feel, just respond to it. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
I love Jordan Peterson. He's great. That's one of my favorite rules from Jordan Peterson. So I think what comes through for that, it almost encapsulates everything that we've talked about so far today. I feel like in a large part, I live from that space. I try and I aim to live from that space. Um, pursue what is meaningful for me means going a couple days without food and restricting my body of what it thinks it needs, because there's a deeper symbolism around that practice that goes beyond just the simple act of not eating. It is the prioritizing myself in the moment, but also being mindful of my future self, the person that I will be in 2 weeks, the person I will be in 2 years, and notice that whenever I'm tapped into a act of meaning, it will pay itself back over time. And so that's one area that really comes up. And then I also think about how much change is happening in the world right now, in the United States government, and how there's so many opinions and political shifts. And I think a lot of these shifts that are taking place in the world are expedient, and it's not taking into consideration time and patience. And so I think doing what is meaningful really coincides with doing what you know to be the greater good, and what may take a little bit more time, and getting away from a world of instant gratification. So I can just pause there. And I'm curious, what does that mean to you, and how is that impactful? And why did you choose that quote to bring up today?
Well, one, also, I do also love Jordan Peterson. So cheers to that. Because I think that quote summarizes what a lot of people are missing, because we can, overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5. And our direction is much more important than speed. And everyone wants speed, speed, speed. But like, I'll just give an example of this podcast as my greatest example. Like, this is episode 223. I feel, just as a podcaster, not that I'm good at what I do, I may be really bad, but my competitive advantage is that I'm going to do this for as long as I possibly can. And at some point, people will listen just because I'm doing it longer than other people are doing it. And now hopefully I get better as I go, and, I iterate and I review and I try to think about my previous performances and all of that stuff. But I'm not, this is meaningful to me regardless of if anyone listens, because I brought you on, Dr. Justin, so I could basically get coached by you for an hour. Okay. So, so it's self-indulgent, and that's awesome. And we follow each other on social, and maybe we'll meet in person in real life, but the connections are there, and it's meaningful to me regardless. And,
Love that.
So 10 years from now, when we have our 15th conversation, if it still feels meaningful, then wow, fucking what a sick thing that I discovered when I was, 28 years old. And so that's what pops up for me. And that's how I've pursued my whole life, whether it was baseball or professional wrestling or podcasting. Like, I've just been lucky. Maybe that was intrinsically in me, just to like, oh, I love that thing, I'm going to go pursue it. Like, I don't know if everyone has that, and like, they can build that inside of them, but I guess I just got lucky with that makeup. And so that's what it means to me. It means a life of fulfillment, like
It's
true
fulfillment.
fulfillment.
That's a great word, because as you were sharing and reflecting, and I'm grateful to be on the call coaching you and talking. This is how my coaching goes anyway when I'm working with people, because we're just riffing and thinking out loud. And I also love, what I love about Jordan Peterson so much is that he acknowledges that he doesn't really know. He's just thinking out loud, and he's thinking out loud in such a way that it's intriguing for people, and there's insightfulness in that thinking process. And so I really mimic that, and I find it to be a very powerful tool in teaching. And whenever I'm talking about breath work, I'm not talking as a matter of fact about breath work. I'm thinking out loud and like, okay, and then when you breathe through your nose, if you press the tongue against the roof of your mouth and you breathe in, it opens up the sinuses just slightly. And then there is a connection between the tongue positioning and the shoulder positioning and the postural positioning. And okay, isn't that interesting how that works? And so, speaking not from matter of fact, I really like, so this is how I coach, is just thinking out loud and going into each topic with some curiosity, yet at the same time, fulfillment was a perfect word, because as you were reflecting back to me and talking about meaning, I know that it's meaningful, not just because you said it was meaningful, but because as you said it was meaningful to you, I felt fulfilled in the way in which that exchange is taking place. I could like physiologically feel chills in my body, and like an emotional response, and like love and joy and gratitude. So reciprocated to you. And I think that's another version of interoception. Another reason I like breath work is because it helps me tune into feeling in my body, not just physically, but emotionally, psycho-emotionally. So that whenever someone shares their heart, my heart responds naturally, because I'm human, but I feel my heart respond, which makes me feel you and your heart even more. That I think is as beneficial as it gets as far as doing this work and these practices. So I appreciate you opening that up.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Pretty beautiful. Perfect way to wrap up our second official episode there, Justin. Do you have any final words, thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, anecdotes, funny stories?
Man, I think that was a great one to end on. I feel like frequently when I lead a breathwork class, I've been ending with gratitude, because I can't think of a more true representation of gratitude and gratefulness than the body's gratitude and gratefulness for breath, which is life. So after a deep breathwork session, or going into a couple breaths together, deep breath in together, let's go in and let it go. Do one, hold it at the top, inhale, hold it. Good. And then exhale and hold on the bottom. Hold on the bottom. Holding. So empty of air, but still circulating, holding on the bottom. And whenever that next breath comes in, maybe it's in 1 minute, maybe it's in 10 seconds, just keep holding as you're listening. Keep holding. When that breath does want to come in and needs to come in, notice how grateful your cells are for that replenishing of oxygen, for that refueling, for that taking in of breath, life, oxygen, energy. And notice the widening where we started, posturing, coming in, another sip to fill up a little bit more, and then let it go and relax. And then notice the gratitude, open your body up to that gratitude. Thank you for having me, man. I'm grateful to share that. So
it's all love, Justin. All love. Thank you, man. I can't wait to do it again soon.
Yes, sir. See you, man. Thank you.
If you enjoyed that episode, please click here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But above all else, most importantly, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.